Welcome all to this award session, and the program is that we are going to speak about the award of individual leadership in continuing engineering education, which is given in the memory of Joseph M. Biedenbach. First of all, who was Joseph M. Biedenbach? Why are we giving the honor in his name? He was an outstanding individual who brought visibility to the field of continuing engineering education. He was a professor of continuing engineering education in the University of South Carolina. That was a unique position in that time. There wasn't other professors in that field. He invented the series of world conferences on continuing engineering education, which led to the foundation of IACEE and fourth World Conference of Continuing Engineering Education in Beijing, 1989. After he had died suddenly in April 1990, IACEE honored his memory by naming its first award after him. Until now, who have got this award? We have 9 great, actually all men, receiving that award before. And who will be the 10th one? It will be Andy DiPaolo. And as a good girl, I have made a little list of things what I can say about Andy. Andy has a global reputation for his knowledge and pioneering work at Southford, where since 1988 he founded and directed for nearly 25 years one of the largest university continuing education and distance education networks in the United States. His colleagues in Stanford told that Andy has challenged the organization and individuals to stretch and grow with support, think differently about serving faculty and customers, and to do so with compassion and empathy. IACEE colleagues have learned to know Andy as a person who has been serving in the position of helping and encouraging the others to be innovative and advancing increasingly the profession of an educator. The list what he has done is long, delivering credit and professional education programs, directing the Stanford Center for Professional Development, designing and delivering graduate and professional education and IT innovation, leading the team which developed the award-winning Stanford Online, continuing to the development of Stanford Engineering Everywhere, an early massive open online course, MOOC, initiative to provide free Stanford offerings to educators and learners around the world. In addition, Andy has conducted research and published in the area of distance education, e-learning and innovation in support of teaching and learning. He has been a member of national and international boards and as an advisor to the universities, corporations and government agencies on the strategic use of technology to address education and training needs. He has given keynote and plenary presentations at many national and international conferences. So, on the top of all the awards he has already received, we are happy to give him the IACEE Award for Individual Leadership in Continuing Engineering Education. Congratulations, Andy.
Thank you, Kathy.
Thank you.
I'll give you a hand.
Should I give this to you as well? These.
I am. Pretty nice.
The photo has been taken now or later?
All right, we'll do that later. Thank you.
Okay.
Thank you, Kathy. And to my colleagues, thank you as well. We know you've been having a good time here eating. So for the next World Conference, Alfredo, you need to build in exercise classes as we go forward here. So we build that into every day. Let me spend a little bit of time reflecting on our business. But I want to reflect on it from the perspective of the other side of the equation. The perspective of the learners we serve and the companies that pay the bills that ultimately pay our salary and build our operation. I know we have some industry people in here, and so at the end you can challenge and see if this holds forth. These are real students that you see, real Stanford students who have been engaged with us over the years. Fantastic range of ethnicities, men and women, great mix. And one of the things that we do as well, is we do profiles on our students. People are asking about marketing. If you go to our website, you'll see profiles. Because the best way to sell to other people is have their colleagues sell to them. So you'll see all these folks. But there's somebody who's not on here, and I want to tell this story. There was a student working in our Honors Corps program, which is the part-time master's degree program that we offer via television. And when I first came here, we were a television network. And this was a Hewlett-Packard student. And typically it takes anywhere from 3 to 5 years to complete a master's degree online or on television because you're working full-time and you have a family and you're working hard. So this student at HP, who supported him to do this, finished his master's degree. And that was in 93, he decided that he would do something else. And he went off and he started a company called NVIDIA. So Jensen Huang, who's a student, a graduate of a continuing engineering education program, then felt, not necessarily because of what we did, but felt strong enough that Stanford had helped him in his career to build out this company, a fantastic company, that he then donated to Stanford $30 million, and that's the naming gift for this building. We are in the Jensen Huang Engineering Center, and Jensen Huang was a student in continuing engineering education. So there's a lesson to be learned there. The kind of work that we do is very powerful. It can have impact. And now you go back to your president and rector and tell them how important this is to be helpful in the future. Let me go 3 slides and let me give you my perspective of the landscape the way I see it. And some of this is pretty straightforward, so I'm not going to spend a lot of time on this. The big one here is this intellectual retooling, constantly being refreshed. If you're not being refreshed as an engineer or a technical professional, you're basically going backwards. And eventually you won't be able to keep a job or find a job. Second is lots of interest in outsourcing. We heard in the last few days Maggie Johnson from Google and Tommy Moreno from Pacific Gas and Electric and our colleague from AT&T saying where they can, they'd like to outsource. They don't want to build up necessarily big training groups. If others can do it in a better way, we should outsource and let them do that. The challenge, though, is for small companies, especially startups. They don't have the money, and certainly they don't have the time. So there's a challenge for us is how can we help people in small companies? Now, that's being helped by the movement, the MOOC movement. Some of that's going on. Others, companies are asking us to be much more responsive to students at all levels. Not just engineers, but how can we help technical managers? Can we even ratchet up to the executive suite? Or can we go backwards to people who are technicians? Might there be some things we can do? So they're looking for an expanding role, perhaps, for providers like ourselves. And they want to make sure that what we teach has direct application to the job. Now, when you go see a student and you ask that student what they want to do, it may not be necessarily matched to what a company wants. A company may have a specific need. We need you to have this skill set to do this. But the student might say, that's great, but I want to head in this direction for my career. So there's a little bit of tension perhaps sometimes, but companies who pay the bills would like to see this. They also want to see some linkages to a return on learning investment. A few years ago, Ed Borbley from University of Michigan, and is Bob Ubell in the room? Bob is not here. Bob Ubell from NYU Poly, and I worked on a Sloan-funded grant that we brought in 30 or 40 corporate VPs for education and training. We're asking about corporate online learning. And one of them used this term, which I'd never heard before, return on learning investment. And by the way, that's if you want to see that report, talk to Ed or myself or Bob, and We can give you the link to find that report. It's actually very interesting about what corporations are doing with online learning. And they gave us a lot of advice. They want to make sure that what we do is efficient. Can we drive the cost down for delivering education so companies don't have to pay as much money? Is there a way to do that? Companies are very good at building in efficiencies. Universities typically are not. Can we learn from companies to do a better job in the way we deliver instruction, in person or using technology? 3 more bullets. Lots of problems, lots of demands on the people we work with. They're really busy. So how can we put education into their lives where it makes sense? And they're moving. Either they're moving because they have to commute a long distance to get to work, or they're moving as a function of their job. They're traveling from site to site, maybe in other countries. So knowing that you have a mobile learner, how can we as providers help those people? Because they can't work during work hours. Then this one, you heard a lot. You heard John Hennessy talk about this as well. This idea of the merging of classrooms and technology to come up with something completely different. Hybrid courses, flipped classrooms, things that are quite different than the way we learn. So there are 2 quotes I like. They're a little bit dated, but they still hold. They're really strong quotes for us to think about. The one first from Don Tapscott. This is very powerful. Isn't this true? Think about yourself. Your workday consists of not just doing work, but you're learning every time you are spending time at that computer. And the second, this isn't an old one, but it still holds, is this. This is the imperative. This is what companies are worried about. What can we do to educate our workforce so that they can help us maintain competitiveness? Because it's getting tougher. So if you think about your institution, are you trying to address this in some way with the companies you're working with? So let's talk now from the perspective of the people you see above. And who are these people? They're not the 18 to 21-year-old, right? Those are students who are less mature. They're in school, and they go to school for a different reason. I've had some 18 to 21-year-olds in my family, I know. They go to school for the 4 L's. They want to know about life, love, liquor, and learning. Who knows what order that is, but that's why they go to school for different reasons. These people are going to school for a very different reason, that they know if they're not in school, not increasing their skill set and their knowledge base, they can't be successful in the companies in which they work or in their career longer term. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to spend some time to let you, I've done a lot of translation, okay, what does this mean in meetings with companies, meeting with students? I'm trying to translate what I think they're saying. That's why our company friends can give me some advice to make sure that I'm saying the right thing. But it was also, I hope, then, some of it's straightforward. I understand that, but some may be different. And it was the great hockey player, Wayne Gretzky, said, I don't skate to where the puck is, I skate to where it will be. So what I'm going to try to do is to show you a little bit about where it will be. So if you're looking out over the horizon a bit, it maybe trigger your thinking about doing some things differently. So the first, no surprise, the people we work with are very good learners. They have to be. They're curious, they're persistent, they get after that, and they have to, if they want to find a job, advance in a job, keep a job. If not, they can't do it. They're very busy, and they are very anxious to learn. The second is they would like to see it integrated. Just like that quote from Don Tapscott, they want to embed it in their job in some fashion. So the implication is, as providers, can we make sure our faculty members are building in activities and assignments that might link right back to what they're doing? So it serves double duty. Not just getting the work done to get the course completed, but getting the work done that can also have a payoff back where they work. The other one is this accessible anywhere and anytime. I talked about the travel. I'll give you an example. Down the road here in Sunnyvale is a company called Lockheed Martin Missiles and Space, big rocket builder provider. And a number of years ago, I talked with an engineer from Lockheed. And he told me he commutes to work a long way. In San Francisco, the cost of housing in the Bay Area is very expensive. So he would be driving well over an hour from the East Bay on the far side of the hills, maybe an hour and a half when traffic sometimes. So he was in his car from 2 to 3 hours a day. And he said, look, That's the only time I can allocate to learning. So what can you do about it? So I, of course, began thinking, well, maybe we could do a DVD for his car. Maybe we could do some iTunes where you could listen to a technical lecture. No, that's not what I have in mind. What you guys need to do, you have good engineers at Stanford, we have good engineers at Lockheed Martin. So I want you to create a system so I can project videos on my windshield as I drive down the road. True story. Fantastic. I laughed, he laughed. And then something caught my mind a few years ago, was this. On the left is Stanley. This was a research project by Sebastian Thrun, who's the founder of Udacity. And Stanley was the first autonomous vehicle that won the DARPA Grand Prize. Huge. That became, when Sebastian moved to Google, became the Google autonomous vehicle, parts of it. And if you're driving in the Bay Area, you might see tonight, you might see that car on the right, because there are lots of them, driving around here. There's somebody in the driver's seat, because it's required, but they're not driving. They're sitting there. And that car is going, they have now millions of miles on these cars, because that's where it's headed. The US military wants completely autonomous vehicles at some point in the future. Good percentage soon. But what struck me is, here's this guy from Lockheed Martin Missiles and Space, so maybe one day in that hour-and-a-half commute, he can sit there and he can be watching those videos while the car drives itself. Okay. Other things, lots of flexibility. I had somebody say, I want to treat my provider like I treat my bank and my bookstore. What's that mean? My bank? Automated tellers. Open 24 hours a day, it's reliable, it's consistent, it tracks me, it gives me information. Bookstore, Amazon, I can go on anytime I want, I can order books, they track me, they give me information, they keep me updated. Why can't a university work the same way? Open 24 hours a day. So I'm an engineer at Apple, and my boss gives me an assignment. And I say, uh-oh, I don't know how to do that. I better get some education to learn how to do this or some training. So I go online, I start looking around, and I come across Stanford or Michigan or RPI or NYU. And I say, oh, I found the course. But this is June. Those courses don't start till September. I need it now. I need it now. So the challenge is, can we find courses to begin and start when people need them? Now, some of that can go on with some of the professional ed courses where you can come and go, but certainly doesn't typically count for credit courses where there might need to be a cohort group or something going forward. So this idea, that's important. The other one is in this crunching down the curriculum. In my dream, if I could take the entire Stanford engineering curriculum and every course break it down into small bits, so you would have thousands of these instructional bits, then a student could come to us and be assessed about his previous background or hers, the skill set they have, what they want to do, and an artificial agent of some type, some machine learning device, should be able to do some sifting and sorting and say, here's a customized curriculum for you. Maybe that's going to happen. Mike, want to raise your hand? Mike? Mike's working on a project where he's beginning to chunk down the curriculum in some way, so if you've not talked to Mike, I suggest you do that. He can fill you in on that. Other things, nothing dumbed down. It's got to be rigorous, challenging, applying it to the job, and make it fast. Can you do it within a practice? So I'm learning, doing, learning, doing, learning, doing. Get it back so it has an impact, positive impact on the work site. And lots of examples. And thinking about gaming. I have a son, and a few years ago, he was a big gamer. He doesn't play as much anymore. But I remember one time watching him play one of these military games, Counter-Strike or something. You know what that is, where you have a battle plan and you work your way through it. But he had on a headset, and he was talking. I'm listening. And I leaned over his shoulder and I watched, and I said, Stephen, after you played the game, what are you doing? How do you play this? Tell me what's going on. So he described it. Now, this was a teenage kid, so I'll say it a little bit differently than the way he said it. But he was a teenage kid. He said, well, here's what I do. Before I play the game, I go in and I can't start at the top. I got to start someplace where I know I can try some things. So I sort of get tested until I get in the right level with people like me. And then we get together as a group. We have headsets. And I listen to a headset. And on that headset, there are people, you can tell, of all ages. Not many women, but the women will play on that as well. But a range of people playing. And we get together as a team. Then we talk about this assignment we have. And then we decide what we need to do, what tools, what weapons do we need to do this, to do the assignment. Then we talk about how we're going to do it, and then we go do it. And I said, well, how's that work? He said, well, at the beginning, we don't do really well. We make a lot of mistakes. And then what happens? Well, we learn, we get better by making mistakes. Right? In game theory, that's called failing forward. Right? We make a lot of mistakes. And then what happens? Oh, then we come back and talk about it, and we do it again. And then we do it again. And we're talking to each other and helping each other and working our way through. And at the end, we get a reward. We get, yeah, you succeeded. You get X number of points. Or if you get really good, you get to go to the next level and then get to work with better people. Can you think of any better educational experience than that? Working as teams, working on a goal, shared tools, failing and learning from failure and keeping going forward. Fantastic. Do we do it in education? Not very much. Not very much. Other things, what they want is they want to control the pace. Can I accelerate? Can I work through? The last sentence is the important one for us in our business. This is coming. Rather than being assessed by assignments and how much time you spend in the seat, can I be assessed on prior learning and be given credit for that? Why should I take a 30-hour course when I already know 6 hours of the material? But I still have to do it? So can you assess me, give me credit for it, maybe give me credit for the entire course? In some places, like Western Governors University or Southern New Hampshire University, they're doing things where you can be perhaps assessed completely, where you learn on your own, you're assessed, you're given credit, and work towards a degree. Pretty powerful stuff. So traditional providers, this is coming. A lot of experimentation. Be prepared. And at its face, it makes sense. Why you force me to take courses on things I may already know? Choice about being real-time or asynchronous or some kind of blending. Students would like to do some of that. How many of you here, I know the answer, own a DVR, digital video recorder? Everybody has some access to one, right? Through their cable company, they bought something in the United States called a TiVo. Some of you know what that is. I'd like to use this example of an analogy to what education was like and what it could be. So, for example, if you're old enough, as I am, I used to watch television through the air. Whatever was on television, I could watch it. I have no choice. Either I turn it on at that time and I watch what's on, or I don't watch, right? So that's just in case. Just in case I'm around, it looks good to me, I'll do it. Then we got to videotapes. Remember that? Wow, it was magic. I could set a timer, I could set it, I could shift the time and then watch it whenever I wanted. Fantastic. That became just in time. Now, these DVRs, TiVo and others, they learn about my viewing patterns. What I watch, this machine learning in a primitive sense, machine learning, is determining what I like to watch. So if I like to watch a lot of the History Channel on World War II, it begins to recognize that. And then guess what happens? It begins to feed me stuff that I think I want to watch. It begins to build up a menu based on my interest and my viewing patterns. Now, if you take that same thing about education, making it customized based on my background, my experience, my skill set, my interests, requirements for my job, can we craft a curriculum? Going back to what I talked about, those small chunks and modules, it would be just for me, customized in some fashion. Now, some of this I'm describing, you explain to some faculty members about these ideas and their heads explode, right? And I understand. This is tough. But I'm giving you from the perspective of the other side of the equation. Frankly, a lot of what I'm pointing out is the way we'd like to learn, right? Lots of opportunity to help me do a better job as a student. Can you help facilitate that, give me advice? The fascinating part yesterday was the tutoring that will go forward will be machine learned tutoring, where it will discover where your problems are, give you some advice, and then tutor you on it in some way. You can do electronic tutoring, coaching, and mentoring. They want to be part of a community of learners. They want to work together in groups. They want to work in a way to learn about each other, create relationships, and drive that into the learning space in some way. And they want a chance to work across. Now, this is from the companies. I would go to companies and I talk to VPs and they'd say, universities are pretty good at doing the technical stuff, but here's where you struggle. You don't teach students how to really work as a team very well, and you don't give them a chance to understand cross-cultural collaboration. Think about when you went to your university, you were admitted and graded and held accountable to a standard as an individual, and then you graduated. So you do that, you get a master's degree from Stanford, you get hired by NVIDIA, and the first day they walk in the job, the manager says, oh, you're part of a team. Oh, I am? And you have no idea how to work as a team. That's why Maggie Johnson from Google said they spent a lot of time on that front end, the first 6 months, about how people work together, how to communicate. So we can do a better job. We should be doing a better job. And can you do that as a function of working in the classes you offer? We at Stanford have a class called Design for Manufacturability. We've had it for many years, and it would not be uncommon for a course assignment where you're working on a project. You'd have a student in Berlin, one in Tokyo, one in Beijing, and one in Palo Alto. They were asked to work on a project together. So that required them to use the tools that they might actually use in the work site. So they practice. They get good at practicing how to work as a team. Just exactly what a company would want. I like this one. The people we work with are content agnostic. They don't care where the content comes from as long as it's high quality. So if somebody could pull together content from a museum or a government agency or a library, a professional association, can they bundle that into a learning experience in some way? And then can somebody certify it? Somebody who has a reputation, so they put the brand on it. Oh, you have the Stanford brand, or you have the Michigan brand, right? Or you have the Peking University brand, whatever that is. What's the brand? But that's what they want. They want it to be branded in some way so that it has meaning to it, and they want it to be certified. That this now represents a set of skills or a knowledge base where you're competent. We were having a conversation with my colleague from Intuit last night about this, because I think there's also huge red flags for universities here. If you get a Stanford master's degree online, it would cost you upwards of $35,000 to $40,000 online. And that brand, that Stanford brand, is provided to you as a graduate, and then you go off to work in a company, and you come as, quote, an educated student from Stanford. But at the same time, one could envision taking elements of that, and you're becoming skilled in certain parts of the discipline, and you get certified, or you get badged. And rather than spending $40,000, what if I got somebody who, instead of taking the 15 courses from Stanford, I got them to take 30 badges, and instead of spending $40,000 to be badged, because it was just then certification in some fashion, it may be only $1,000, right? So what does that mean for the company? That means I could put 40 people into that program instead of one, if I can get badged. So think about it from the university perspective. This is coming. We're seeing it now. Look what Andrew Ng's doing with Coursera. He's badging. That certificate program he's running through, at some point companies they're saying, no. That's proving to me you've got a skill set. It's been certified, and I can get you and continue to offer it at a much lower cost than what I can get from a university. That's scary for universities. Somebody else, Coursera, who can maybe do it in a better, more efficient way, stronger way, could be taking business away from universities. And guess what? If they can do it in a better, stronger way, they should. So that's the challenge back to you. What are you doing to address that? Students want to look at courses. They want to have a sense of the rating. If you, for people who shop online, certainly in the United States, you can shop online on eBay or Amazon. These sellers are rated. So you determine, oh, I want to buy from that person because he or she has a good rating. Well, the people who want to take courses from us, they want data too, just like us. How do we make a decision on when we decide what airline to fly or what store to shop in? We want data. So students are saying, give me the data. I want to know that before I sign up for the course. You want me to make an important buying decision that may cost a lot of money? Give me information before I do that. They want a portfolio. Can a university help these people create a portfolio that resides in the cloud for their lifetime, so whenever they apply for a job, there's information for the employer to look at about what that student's capable of doing. This is huge for all of us, and this is this notion of student as customer. I don't care how good a course you have, how fantastic your faculty are, if the student has trouble registering for a course, paying a bill, getting homework returned, forget it. It's not going to happen. So this is huge. You've got to have that back-end infrastructure to make that happen. Lots of interest in pricing. If you use iTunes, you can either buy the entire album or you can buy a single song. Why can't you buy an entire course or one module and charge me differently for that? Lots of assessment. What did Andrew Ng say yesterday? 50 gigs of assessment data a day. 50 gigs a day. Talk about having data to make decisions. Amazing. And of course, drive it to those devices. Everything, when we started doing some of our online work, when we did Stanford Engineering Everywhere, a commitment that we had made, working with Mike and his team, was we got to go mobile. And this is early. We got to go mobile. If you're doing technology delivery today and you're not doing mobile, you're making a huge mistake. It's got to be mobile. And then this one. This is interesting. Think about your experience as a student when you graduated from your university, certainly in the United States. When you graduated, what was the first communication you got from your school? What did they want? Money. Money. They asked for money. Oh, you've had a great experience. Somebody's paid for you. You need to contribute for the next generation of learners. Fantastic, right? I think you can use what we do strategically by saying to the new graduate, congratulations, you've succeeded. We want to help you throughout your career, and we're going to give you the first course for free. Then when that development office calls, they may have a very different response. Now, I tried that at Stanford. I tried to pitch that idea. I didn't get very far with it. But think about the graduates of your program, how they can be an asset to the university for other reasons, for development. So let me end with 5 recommendations based on my experience, whatever that's worth. So if I were giving advice to people who are in our business, I tell you to do 5 things. I'd first tell you this. No, yeah, sure, collective yawn. Of course, we all do that. But wait a minute. What are you doing? Look at the things up here. Are you doing things that are different than what others are doing? Not the same. Is there something that you're doing? Then you have data that you can do it in a way that might be different. And the last one, are you, within your organization, creating a sense of urgency to move? This underlying uneasiness. Oh, we got to keep moving. At Stanford, we like to say, standing still is like going backwards. Right? So you got, as part of your planning and thinking, are we constantly on the move? Number 2. Where's your sweet spot? What does that mean is, what does industry need? Where are you strong as an institution? What do your faculty members want to do? And then what will people pay for? Those 4 things. If you can give a check mark against all 4, you're moving in the right direction. If you're missing one of those, it means you're going to have to struggle. Right? You're going to have to struggle with some of this. You can't do it. Can you be first out of the gate? What won't you do? And learn from failure. Just like my kid learned from gaming failure, what can you learn? At Stanford, I had a great boss who would say to me, Andy, just run experiments. Go see what works. Because there was permission to fail. And we would learn from that. That's a very healthy attitude. Number 3, scaling. You have the right people in place, enough money to do these things. And I always recommend start small. Experiment. Do something small. Try it, pilot test it, learn from that, and then advance and move forward. And can you work with an outside partner to help you? Can the partner help you mitigate risk, add money, bring in new markets? All those things. But you have to be careful because partners, especially if they're commercial partners, have first dollar signs or euro signs or RMB signs that they want money. So you need, and universities don't typically work that way. We're more reflective. We want to do the right thing, quality. You should not be driving forward just because of making money. What are you doing that's best for the institution? If you do the right thing, money will be there. I've talked about this already. All this stuff about having enormously strong service capability. And can you move quickly to make changes? And are you flexible? Or are you that university bureaucrat who's going to make life miserable for that student? Can you help that student navigate what's sometimes a tough course? And then measure everything. All right? And these, people know the Sloan C program, that they have the Sloan C pillars, that's based on some of this. Are you measuring? Was it a good experience for learners? Did it apply to work? Was learners and faculty satisfied that you work with? So think about this data that you can collect. So if you start thinking about your own organization and going forward from the perspective of what you need to do to serve a student, you need to make sure you're covering those 5 things. My final thoughts. What we do is help people learn. We're not a technology player. Technology is great. It'll help you get there. But don't make your decisions based on technology. Make your decisions on what you want people to learn, which technology may be applied. Typically it is now, but that's not your first order question. Number 2, maybe that's because of my being parochial, I live here. And this is a crazy place. If you've not sensed it, just get out and go around this valley. It is nuts. This is what's happening. There's enormous disruption and innovation, and everyone wants to try something new. Everybody. And your charge to your staff, you cannot have any degree of mediocrity. That will just weaken your program and weaken your university as a result. It's got to be a high level, and you need to meet that every single time. And you have to execute that in a way that really shows the people you're working for that you care for them, you want to make sure they succeed, and that you deserve the money that's coming to you to pay for that academic exercise. And the last point, and that is this one. This is a reflection one, mostly for me. We as professionals in continuing education have some obligations. First, we have obligations to each other. What do I mean by that? We compete, but I say we cooperate to compete. We should be helping each other get better as a profession, right? You know, I look around the room, I see people in the marketplace that we try to go after the same customers, but meetings like this are very powerful where we can learn from each other and help each other because overall the entire profession gets better. So that's one thing, cooperate to compete. The second is Joe Biedenbach, the award is named after Joe. I first met Joe many, many years ago, and I came to my very first meeting. And what Joe did was he introduced himself, he made me feel welcome, he introduced me to people, he introduced me to more senior people. Where's Linda? Linda Crute. Linda and I had a conversation tonight. We would go to these meetings. We started in our profession around the same time. And I remember going in from the very first meetings, I'd look around the room and say, Linda, who are all these old people? That's me now. But the old people were the best that I've worked with because they became mentors. They provided advice. They were there to support me. So the obligation we have in our profession is to do the same for the next generation who's following us. You should be mentoring somebody every day. That's the obligation we have back to our profession. So, last slide is this. Technology has limitations on what it can accomplish. You and your colleagues do not. Thanks.
So, thank you very much, Andy. It was great talk, and I'm convinced that we gave the award to the right person. Thank you very much.